It's show and tell with Harvey Hubbell. Who are you and what do you do?
My name is Elise Lovejoy, and I run a company called Express Readers. But I was a teacher for 15 years before this, and basically everything in my life led up to being a teacher. That was all I ever wanted to do. This has just been a perk.
So I always ask people that question. So first memory. What was your first memory?
My very first memory. Um, Ooh, wow, you hit hard from the get-go. My very first memory, I think, would have to be trying to find candy in my grandfather's house. Is that a weird one? I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
He would hide licorice because his wife wouldn't let him have it.
So you would find it. That's pretty
Mhm.
interesting.
Now, if you're going to go with teaching, though, I would line up the kids in the neighborhood out in the tree in the front yard, and I would be the teacher. And if I didn't have enough kids, I'd just grab stuffed animals. So that's pretty much if it says anything about me.
I that's a reoccurring theme in educators. I mean, it really is.
It is.
And it's your hero's journey. It's your hero's journey. What's your birth order? Are you oldest, youngest, middle? What are you?
I am the youngest of two, and then I have two half brothers. So technically I'm in the middle, but a little bit of a funny family situation, like most people,
Like
right?
most, it's called an American family.
Yeah, exactly.
So you were teaching
From the
family
from the
family members, neighborhood kids, and everybody. You were the teacher.
anybody who would show up. Who knows what I was teaching them? I don't remember that part. Hopefully it was something wholesome, but I was definitely out there doing my thing. And I mean, it went from every high school job I had, it was either babysitting or summer camps or, tutoring programs. Everything led up to teaching. I knew from the minute I could say, when people would say, what do you want to be when you grow up? It was always a teacher.
So you're stamped at birth. You're going to be a teacher.
Mm-hmm,
You're destined to be a teacher, which is
mm-hmm.
pretty impressive. So
Very nice.
then one day you went to college and you learned how
Yeah.
to be a teacher, and then
Yep.
you came walking out of with a diploma in your hand, and you walked into a school and somebody let you teach kids. And how was that? What happened then?
Shocking that I was, especially in your early 20s when you're like, I'm not certain that I can feed and survive myself, and I'm going to teach everybody's children. But no matter what was going on in my life, and I've thought about this a lot, no matter what I was doing wrong or what choices I made or anything like that, what never changed for me was when I walked into the classroom, I was a good teacher. I was the best version that I could be. So, as we talk about all of this reading, I have the same story that other teachers have, that I was taught wrong. I was taught about programs, not methods. I wasn't taught how to read. So the first school I went into to be the best teacher I could be, I did what they told me. I took what they had. I made cozy nooks. I remember making a reading nook out of old broken down doors. I wanted to make this very cool little section because that was going to help my kids read. So from the get-go, I was the best possible teacher I could be. I just didn't know. And again, we're hearing that over and over and over again. I do not have a unique story by any means when it comes to that. What I do have that's slightly unique about it was I got lucky early on when I was about 5 to 7 years into my teaching. I was hired to be a co-teacher to somebody that couldn't get their teaching license. He was dyslexic. And I'm not going to go into too much. He was the son of a very famous man, and I didn't know it at the time in education. And he was all about sound, phonemic awareness, the code and how to help kids get it. And admittingly so, we did not get along. I didn't understand him. I think there were some reasons that were legit for that. But what I took away from that experience was, oh my gosh, this is something that kids can figure out. Why have I been teaching them to sit in a comfy beanbag chair with a book that they couldn't read for 5 years? And then it's then it's the like devastation of that. And who did this? Why were people telling me this? Did they know better? So then, I go on to the next, I come back to California. I was in Boston. I come back to California. I get a job. They have a phonics lesson, but I'm like, this isn't right. There's more to this. I know there's more to this now. And because I'm in California, which has been a resistant state to this, we're, firmly Lucy Calkinsville. I felt like I was screaming to people, this is wrong. We're not doing something right. Something has gone wrong. I would go to conventions. I'd written this small collection of decodable books, and I would have to explain it to people, and people would kind of shake their head and nod and then keep going to the next booth. And I'm going, why don't people get this? What's happening? And I think in the past couple of years, it's been the first time that I realized how many people actually felt like me, and that it's not a unique situation. And on a personal level, there's a double edge. I feel great now having a community. I feel disgusted that this has happened, and it was happening all over the United States. It wasn't just my corner.
There's a storm coming, and people are getting, there is an awareness that's breaking out all over the country. And I think the internet helps us communicate.
Yeah,
you're 3,000 miles away from me. And we have these conversations with a lot of people now. So, okay, so you're a teacher. You these decodable books. Tell me about why and how you. So I know you're frustrated by this. So, what grade were you teaching at this time?
I've always been in K through 2. So I was K1 when I was in Boston. I taught second grade for a year. And then when I came back out here, I was kindergarten and then first grade. So here I am teaching this phonics lesson and then giving kids these books that don't have any words that follow those structures. So basically I'm continuing the conversation of, look at the picture, look at the sentence structure. Maybe the first letter sound. I mean, I'm doing all the things that I was still doing with, balanced literacy and guided reading and everything, but I'm just using a phonics program now. So I was pissed. Sorry, I don't know what I am and I'm not allowed to say, language-wise. But yeah, I was really upset. So I started writing these silly little stories that only included the phonics that the kids knew. And the kids were laughing and they were reading. And it was only for my class. I was just making these paper books. And this woman in LA, this principal, she was principal of the year, 2 years running. She gets a hold of my black and whites through my mother. I don't know her, but she gets a hold of them. And she told my mom, I can't have lunch with you. I need to sit here and read these. She goes, this is brilliant. This is what kids need to be doing. She called me up and she said, do you want to do something with this? And I said, no, I'm a teacher. I don't have any money. I don't have, any time. Yeah. And she said, you can't keep this to yourself. So I made this tiny little collection of books, and immediately teachers, it wasn't everywhere, but the teachers that did grab onto it were like, this is what I needed. So they had these disconnected phonics, because as people are starting to say, something's missing, let's slap in a phonics Band-Aid. Well, that's not all it is. There's so much more to reading than just teaching the letter sounds. Yeah. So I was frustrated. And then, you'd walk down the aisles of Target. Now as a mom, it just pisses me out to no end. I see these, level A or I can read books. And as a parent, if I had no idea, I would pick that up and I'd put it in front of my child. And here I'm the most trusted human being for my child. And I'm giving them something that I'm expecting them to read, and they can't. So I am making them feel stupid in their own home. And it makes me so angry to look at that whole aisle, think we're getting this wrong.
Okay, so now you're a mad mom.
Yeah.
So you're a mad mom. You're an educator. You're stamped at birth educator. So this is your hero's journey. And you started doing something about it. You did something about it in your classroom. Now, so you run into this principal. This principal starts saying good stuff about you.
Yeah.
You start passing these books around. Then what happens with these books?
Nothing. It took me 6 years, 7 years. I have 2 kids. I'm working for nothing. I'm writing these books at night while my kids are sleeping and during any second I possibly can. Mind you, I have a son with special needs. So we're going through all that. And um, and then a couple years ago, I send my books to a couple of people that I hear on the radio or I hear on, I read an Emily Hanford article and I sent it to a bunch of those people and I said, should I even keep doing this? Is this something that's and all of them came back, yes, don't stop now. And then all of this stuff started to come out in media and then my company took off. So it was a waiting game. It was but I knew, and my husband knew, and my family knew. And so people never around me knew how passionate I was about it. They didn't question me or make me stop or say that I needed to, but I had a privilege that other people didn't because my husband and I were both teachers. And when I left the field, he got a job in business. So it covered both our salaries. Because as you know, teachers are not highly paid professionals.
I want to talk about Express Readers. I want you to tell people how we can get in touch with you and your books, and they can see your books, and we got a link and do some other stuff. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit about Express Readers before we dive into the next part of it.
Well, Express Readers is a teacher-run company, so we have teachers working as consultants and on staff, and it's a series of decodable books, but also a TK through second grade reading and foundational skills in reading program. And you can go to www.expressreaders.org.
Very nice.
Yeah.
So
that's it.
So we made this movie, and it's about educators, and one of the things that we spent a year in the classroom with first grade teachers. I mean, it's like a war zone for a teacher too. I mean, you got to get the kids you got to teach kids how to read, and you have a year to do it. I mean, you guys are rock star heroes. And you know what? I love basketball players and CEOs of companies, and they're really cool. They get paid a lot of money and they work hard. But so do teachers, and maybe the CEOs could get a little bit less money, and the teachers could get a little bit more money, and the basketball players, same thing. But I don't know.
No, we always at our company, if somebody gets in touch with us and is a teacher paying out of pocket, a lot of the time I just send them free stuff. I mean, I know that feeling of being a teacher and you don't know it at the time because you're doing it because you love it. You do this because you love it. You don't go into it because you're going to get huge bonuses or get to go on trips or anything like that. You have to actually love it to do it, because there's other jobs you can pick that will pay you what you're worth. Teaching does not do that. But hopefully we can start giving back the respect to the profession. We can start showing people, while we're talking about reading, how hard this is. Not only are they making sure that your kids' shoes are tied and that they, know that not to say bad words and all the, mannerisms, and then how to hold a pencil and how to sit on a rug and all of the things that you have to teach kids, and you have to make sure that they do. And you've got, like I used to say, it was like spinning tops. You had to spin them all, and then you had to go back to the first one, make sure it was still spinning and that everybody was engaged. All of that. And on top of that, you need to make sure that they can crack the code and use it to actually read.
Yeah, no, it's incredible. I mean, when we witnessed it, and I asked you the question, but it's a stamped at birth question, and a lot of teachers, it's their calling, it's their passion.
Yeah,
the people who do that, and so teaching teachers how to teach is kind of important. The science of reading, go figure that there's a science behind the science behind reading. Go figure.
Shocking.
So let's talk about how we met.
How we meet. Actually, it was Donna told me about Hopeville, and she said, I know that you're a big supporter of evidence-based learning and the science behind how kids learn to read. Would you be willing to, say one line in this to show support? And I said, oh yeah, sure. The fact that that a documentary that really shows what's happening in the classroom, that provides the information in a way that's edible for people who are not always just in education, that we can start seeing this as the problem that it is, and the pervasive problem that it is for our children and our entire society. I want in, and it did not disappoint. And I know that I had a lovely cocktail in my hand while I was watching it, but I was also in tears. I was totally moved watching it, especially when I'm not spending my everyday in a classroom again. That's not my everyday anymore. And to be back in that situation and to feel the hope you have while a child is trying to read, and the frustration you feel when you realize that they haven't been given something that they need in order to do it. It was overwhelming for me. And knowing that my son is also that age and he's going through some of this, because it continues, even at kids' schools like mine, it continues. And it's heartbreaking.
Well, you're only in first grade, if you're lucky, 1 year,
Yeah,
if you're lucky, and only in second grade. And, we talk about people getting socially promoted, and the teachers just like, forget it, but, I don't want Harvey in my class again. I'm just going to get him out of here. But the important thing is, now with the science of reading, you can really make a difference in humans' lives, so in students' lives.
What I think is interesting is that in the title of your movie, it says how to win the reading wars. And I know that there's been a conversation about, oh no, we shouldn't say reading wars. And I have to say, I'm in the camp. We are in a war. We are fighting against people that have doubled, tripled, quadrupled down on their methods, even though they do not follow the science. We just all saw that Teachers College of Reading and Writing was dissolved. But here goes Lucy Calkins and starts her own company. And she's saying the same stuff, and people are still eating it. That I like the fact that Hopeville, how to win the reading wars, stuck with that, because I think when you have a casualty that's children, we're in a war. I'm not just going to strongly say something. I'm going to fight. This isn't peanuts. This isn't a small thing. It's not a page 6 of the newspaper. This has to be something that we focus on.
Well, there's casualties. There's casualties in a war, and our prison systems are loaded with people who are illiterate, people who can't read. What kind of jobs are they going to get if they can't read? Of course I know where to find them. I can find them in prison. They can't read, and a lot of these people, they're self-conscious and feel terrible about not being able to read, and they want to be able to read. They wish they learned when they were young. That's when you're supposed to do it. So, again, when we worked in the film, we were with these teachers in the classroom, and it's a war zone. I don't mean the kind of classroom, all the stuff that goes into it in the modern times, but your deadline of having to get these kids prepared and ready, and that's where the admiration for these teachers and the early, K through 3 teachers. These are the people who the parents should just be so, blessed that a good educator is in there and making a difference. And I do think parents recognize it when there's a good educator
Yeah.
there, and the kids love it, and you're changing people's self-esteem because they are little balls of energy.
Yeah.
But and you can crush their souls or you can elevate their souls, and that, that's the job of those first grade teachers, the magicians, to elevate
Yeah.
them and give these.
Well, and when we're like you saying with crushing their souls, I think part of the reason that when we talk to teachers and they have such a guilt about why this happens or about this happening, oh, I taught them wrong. It's not that I gave them wrong information. It's that for an entire year, I made them feel stupid. That the little people that I wanted to take care of, the people I wanted to grow and make feel confident and feel good about themselves and have successes, for an entire year, I made them feel stupid. That sounds really harsh, but if you look at everything that's in a classroom, the math word problems, the science hypotheses, the words that you write on the board, the schedule that's up there, the books now that you're giving them. If somebody again and again and again can't do something, then they are expected to do it, and you don't even give them the tools to do it, you are literally making them feel stupid every day. And so those people that are in prison, not only were they not taught to read, they were made to feel a certain way every single year of their schooling. I mean, every year that they hung in there, because honestly, I wouldn't hang in there or trust anybody that never took a chance to give me the tools to do what I'm supposed to do in that arena.
Right on. I mean, right on. I mean, but this is the conversation. A lot of what you and I are talking about, when teachers get together, this is what they talk about. But making somebody feel stupid, realizing, and that's not your intention. You're a good person.
No.
Teachers have empathy and they want to help. And to all of a sudden be a tool to make somebody feel stupid. And I mean, that's soul crushing.
Yeah. And there's a gaslighting that's been happening, I think, in the last couple of years too, where one side of this reading war is saying, well, you just didn't read the manuals right. It was always there. We always said phonics was important. I'm sorry, but I was not given these tools, and I was told a very different way, very clearly. And so there's this gaslighting that happens too that leaves teachers alone. It's a very lonely feeling. And I think what's happened in the last couple of years, thankfully, is that now there's a community where we're all kind of supporting each other. Yes, there'll be infighting and all kinds of stuff, but the good parts of it, people are supporting each other. Good for you for learning more. It's okay. Let's, here's some free ways to access it. So hopefully that piece will continue so that this side can win this thing and start taking care of our kids right.
Well, yeah, I agree. And this is what I'm going to do now. I'm going to ask you, we're going to get advice. Give us advice to the hero's journey. What about these young teachers now? Somebody who's listening, an educator. What advice do you have for a teacher?
To read the research, to make sure you know who your sources are, to believe in yourself, that even if someone is telling you something that isn't true, you have to fight for what's right for your kids. That's very hard to do because if your job is on the line, but our kids deserve it. They deserve educators who have the information, who try their very best to do what is right. It's okay to make mistakes. We all make mistakes, but to get back up and keep trying to do it the right way. I think that there's a lot of really good sources out there right now for information. I think a lot of people, we shouldn't follow people. We should follow sources. And, but I think there are ways to learn what you need to learn. So if you go into a school district and you know that they're not following the research, don't just stay there, or follow what they tell you.
What do you do? But do you?
We've got the internet now. You find people. You reach out, you ask for help. I know it's so easy as a teacher to shut our door or to try to do things on our own, but there are a community of people who are willing to send you free stuff or give you this free source of information or talk to you on the phone. I mean, I watch it all the time now. People are saying, why don't you DM me? Let's talk about it. We've got a community here and we just need to use it.
Yeah, no, that's true. That we can. Okay, now, more free advice from
More.
It's Elise, right? Or Lisa?
Yes.
Elise. Okay. So more free advice. Now, what advice would you give the Board of Education?
Ooh, that's a good one. To actually do some learning. It's awful. I feel like the Board of Education, a lot of the times it's lawyers or high school teachers or people in the community that want to be involved, and then they don't do the learning. I've had some really incredible board members who have now contacted me or talked to me on the side. Can you tell us about this source? Can you give me an article that I can look at about this? This is vital. This is a priority. This has to be learned about, and it needs to be taken seriously. It's not all of the small pieces that we worry about are never going to add up to the literacy crisis we're having right now. The lines at dismissal, the cafeteria, the fiber in the foods, it seems like sometimes the conversations that are happening, you want to yell. Just focus on our kids. What do they need? Teach them how to read.
I like people. I'm a people person. I like people. I like teachers because teachers care and they want to make a difference. I like Board of Education folk who is in our community. They volunteer their time, and I love what you said. And it's just so simple nowadays. There is the internet. There's a lot of crazy information out there, but if it's your job, even if you're volunteering for that job, kind of what I heard you say in the beginning, when you're a teacher, you're being the best teacher you can be. So if you're the best Board of Education person you can be, what's going on with this literacy? There's a literacy crisis in this country. Yeah. I'm on the Board of Education. I would have known that. So yeah, they can look it up. I mean, one of the things we did, we talk to a lot of people, we meet a lot of people, and we put it into a easily digestible film to watch to understand it. So now you made it big time. You're on top of the heap. You've been a teacher for a while, but then what advice are you going to give the top of the heap, the principal or the school superintendent? What kind of advice?
To actually be involved in the process. That by standing back and assuming teachers are going to take on one more thing without understanding how important it is, there are still a lot of teachers out there that don't know that this is happening, and that feels shocking, or that don't know why it's happening. Oh, there's a pendulum. It's swinging back and forth. No, it's not. Pendulum's done. We know better. We have to start moving in that direction. So as a principal or a superintendent, do some of the learning with your teachers. Understand this, because no matter what you put into place for curriculum for the rest of these kids' lives, past second grade, if a kid can't read, they cannot access it. If they can't read, they can't read the math word problems. They can't read the homework that you send home with them. They can't read the testing that they need to get done. There is nothing you can do for that child other than teach them how to read at that point. It's vital. It has to happen. And it needs to be a priority.
You're awesome. You should run for office.
Never. Never. But I have to say, I know that you and I had a conversation after Hopeville, but I was so impressed, and I'm going to say it this way. I was relieved when you watch a documentary that's as well done as that is, where I laughed, I cried, I understood how somebody felt, I really could put myself in that position, in that place, and I could understand the information. And obviously I'm in a different plane, but my husband was with me and he's still learning about all of this. And he was like, I totally got it. I mean, more than got it. You kind of walk out angry, even though you were giggling in parts. I feel relieved when I see something like what you've built, because it gives our community more voice. Like I told you when I said, I feel like for the last decade, I've been yelling, something's wrong. This is going wrong. We need to teach our kids how to read, and this is not going to cut it. There were a lot of us doing that, but we just didn't have a voice. And I know Emily Hanford gave a lot of us a voice with her podcast. And then, people started coming out with these very strong, smart, knowledgeable conversations in public media. But something like yours is accessible by people like a board member, like somebody who doesn't have the background that we all have, that they can walk away going, there's really a problem happening. We need to address it.
And it's a fixable problem.
Yes.
There's a problem and it's fixable. And we give the solutions to it. Do you like our call to action at the end of the film?
Yes, I love it. And the advocacy toolkit, I just think it's phenomenal. I work with a couple of women on the Science of Reading Advocacy Facebook group, and we've promoted that there. Just being able to give ways for us to stand up, whether you're a teacher, a parent, a community member, if you know how important it is, we need information like what you've put out to access. I did some board talks, like I went as a parent because I have a child in the school district that's balanced literacy school district. And just like you said, one of the things I said is, I am not complaining. I have identified for you a problem that has a solution. We've got to put this back on the people whose job it is to make sure that this doesn't happen anymore.
Well, that's, now you're in the advocacy toolkit, and
Awesome.
you gave some great free advice to teachers and educators. But now you're a parent. What's the advice for the parent? You have this cute little spinning top, this little ball of energy, and
Yeah,
you put them on a big yellow bus, they go away and they come back, and after a while you start noticing a difference. And sometimes, when you start noticing the difference in the kids, especially if you have one kid who can read, one kid who can't read.
that's what I have.
So you're a mom, you know these things, and you're an educator. So okay, what's your advice to the parent now?
Well, I think, first of all, no matter what, you have to fight, but you can do it politely and with respect, but you need to get in there. You need to put your foot in the ring. So I thought, when my son was going, I thought, this is a very shaky ground I'm on, because I'm in this field. Maybe some of the teachers have heard me talk at the board talks. I don't want them to immediately peg me as someone who isn't their biggest supporter, because I am. They have my child in their class every single day, and they're giving love. They're giving him love. However, I do have to stand up for my child. So last year he came home and he said, Mom, well, because I can't read. He was in first grade. And I said, well, what do you mean you can't read? You can read. He could read, consonant, vowel, consonant words, small words. He was behind, but we were sounding things out. And he said, well, I can't read any of the books in my class. And I realized very quickly that they were all leveled readers. So I went in, I bought a bunch of decodable books that were not mine. Some were mine, but I wanted to show that this wasn't a company thing. This was a way that we help our kids. And I said, could you please put these in his book bin? And she was lovely because she was supportive. She said, sure. And she came to me later. She said, those little books you gave me? All the kids were grabbing them and reading them. It's listening to your kids. What's going on in their class? Are we asking questions? I asked one of the teachers, I took a level reader and I said, how would you like for my son to read this? It said, we look for treasure. Not one of those words is decodable to a child who knows their basic letter sounds. And she said, well, I'd tell him to look at the picture. And I said, well, what if the picture wasn't there? Then what should he do? And she's stumped. And I don't want to make it this fight, but I also have to stand up for my kid. And by doing so, I'm standing up for other kids, because there are other kids who probably feel exactly the same way, and their parents just don't know. Their parents love them as much as I love my child, but they don't have the background. And it's not fair and it's not equitable that I would be able to advocate for just my child because I know better. We need to start advocating as parents for all the kids that are in our schools. Not in a, we don't have to fight badly, but you have to step in the ring.
Well, I mean, it's like Saturday Night Live even did a thing on Board of Education meetings. It's getting,
Seen that.
but the thing is, there's empathy and love and kindness,
Yeah.
and again, remember, teachers have a hard job. They're between a rock and a hard place with all these different things. So positive pressure. One of the things that some parents taught me was positive pressure in the school system. You gave examples. You gave kind examples. I have a old friend of mine, Judge Karen Cole. I don't know. She's a judge when she's, that's what she does. Sometimes she's a judge, and everybody, okay, yeah. She's a judge. I'm respecting her, but she's also a mom. And when she goes into the classroom, she's a mom.
Yeah.
She's not a judge. So it's not like Your Honor. It's like, hey, lady, right? So what she does is, and I love this, she makes brownies, makes cookies, and gives them to the teachers. And then, by the way, and I like your idea, just so you give them the decodable books and begin to work on it. There's, one of the things we know, when I was in school, it was a learning disability, right? And now it's a learning difference, because everybody learns differently.
Yeah.
So we all process differently. And some people learn to read this way, some people learn to read that way. But certainly with the science,
I have to just disagree with you.
No, go on. You're supposed to disagree with me.
I have to disagree with you, because we know that most kids, a very large majority, learn in exactly the same way. It's just the rate at which they do it and how they access it. So like the child that will pick up on patterns all on their own and just run with it. And then there's a child that needs to explicitly be taught. So you're right in saying that kids need something different, but we all process that information in the same way. Even my son, who's on the spectrum, as I started learning more and reading more research about it, yes, there are some differences, and I might need to say things differently, and I might need to, make sure that I'm doing it twice as many times as somebody else, but he's still learning it the same way. He figures out the code. He applies it to the text. He processes it through his brain, and what we know from fMRIs and neurological imaging, there are parts of our brain that light up at different parts of this process. We do all process it the same. It's just where we have our weaknesses and where we have our strengths and where we need to work more.
Right. So that's where we need to work more. So if we're testing the child to know what does child know, and you take X amount of reading, I take twice as long to get that, or maybe I even go to the tier 3 where I'm getting 3 times as much instruction as you, but because I'm getting 3 times as much instruction, they move me up to level 2. Where I'm getting it, but I'm not getting it. You're ahead of the class. You're doing good. Me, not so much. So teaching to the strengths and the weaknesses, as you said, is the differences and
but it's making it equitable, because like you're saying, you deserve the respect that you are just as smart as a child who finds it easy to read. And you need to be learning all the same things. So I need to provide you access to the same information, whether I'm doing it in a read aloud, or I have, books on tape, or I'm providing the information in a different way, watching a documentary on the topic, whatever it is that I can do to support that, because you are just as smart as the next person. But this one process requires more out of you than it does the rest of us. So I think that the biggest difference comes into play with how we help our kids access the information around them and how we emotionally support that. So you deserved to have somebody emotionally support you through that, because that's frustrating. That word is so minuscule when it comes to what you probably went through. But I'm just saying, like, this is where teachers this is what we're good at too, but it's where we need to identify who needs what from us.
Well, the other thing is, and I'm thinking about this with the principal who walk in the hallway, who, earn their way up there, and they look at the child who's a troublemaker in school. Me, I was a troublemaker in school, if you can imagine. And
shocking.
How come you can't be like your sisters? Well, there's a lot of reasons I can't be like my sisters, right? And they're good, they're good in school, and Harvey, you're just not trying hard enough. I mean, you hear this all over. It's the same thing. But now it seems like a red flag should go up for a school superintendent, the Board of Education, the principals, when they're looking at the kid is just a troublemaker. It's like, wait a minute, what is that kid missing? If a house is falling over, if it's leaning to the side, you might take a look at the foundation of how was the house built? Was it built good? So going back to our brothers and sisters that are incarcerated in these prisons, they miss something early on, and you're not gonna. And we have all these wives' tales that they're gonna get it in third grade. They'll catch up. It's like, no, you build a good foundation, and you're gonna go, and then you have all these fallacies that you say, that they come from the wrong side of town. They're they're from a bad family. He or she's a bad apple. When reality, you can fix the foundation if you do it right. If you do it right in preschool, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, these are the formative times. And I just think that we have to have this conversation. We have to get everybody in every board of education, every school superintendent, every decision maker, every policy maker on the same page. And one of the reasons we made the film was because you can sit in that room and you're gonna get it, and you're sitting with everybody else. And that's why we love having those panel discussions where and what I really like is when we have more time and we can get the audience involved in the Q&A. When we were together, we didn't do that as much, but it's just a beautiful thing, because it's like you were saying, it's the conversation, and then you're with your own people and you're able to talk about this, and you don't feel like you're the only one screaming, in there. So
into the void, into the abyss, yelling. But then it's actually, the conversation is now happening, and it will take, documentaries like Hopeville and more researchers who are providing material that teachers can actually apply to their classrooms, and the conversation is just getting started, I think, even though we're well into this eye-opening piece of what's been going on in the last couple of years. But you're right. I mean, reading has become this privilege that is allotted to some and not provided for others. So we just have to get back to this. Reading should be the foundation of our education. It should be there. And when a child is not learning how to read, that is not a they problem. That is an us problem. That is a school problem. That is not their parents' fault. It is not the kid's fault. The kid is not lazy. I'm sorry, kids aren't lazy. That's not what this is. And if a kid is really lazy, guess what? There's something else going on. they're not getting sleep because something traumatic is happening for them. I mean, all the things. We now need to really look at what the problem is, what's been going on, how do we fix it, and that it is on us, not just the teacher, not just this. Teachers have been taking this on for, I mean, we take on the world when you walk in a classroom. You take on all the problems of all your little kiddos and you try to. So we're not saying that teachers need to take on twice as much, but the schools need to start supporting this, and they need to start identifying it, and they need to start making it a priority and part of the teacher's job, instead of saying this is extra. Help these kids who aren't doing well. No, that's part of school. If a child isn't doing well, we're not doing something right.
Right. Find out what it is.
I know. And the universal screening, I mean, I've never been, this is going to sound, well, whatever, I don't care, but I've never been supremely political. And I find myself watching so much more, because every time one of these states picks up legislation, and I know that this is a hot button for people, but some school systems are not changing. They know that the problem is out there and they are not doing anything about it. And I think that the way that we have to approach some of them is we have to force them. And I know that good change doesn't happen if you are forced, but something has to happen. Something has to change. We can't just let all these kids keep going through the system. And so I've been watching more of the politics happening, because every time a state, removes 3Qing or finally puts in universal screening for dyslexia and possible reading risks, I get like the silent cheer going. Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully. So, okay, let's end on a bright, happy note. So what's going to happen, and what's the world you want to live in? Do you have a crystal ball? How are we going, now that there's this thing called the internet, now there's these peer-reviewed white papers that people can get it, they can understand, you can take that in with your cookies and your brownies and give them to educators, and there's a lot of ways to do it. What's going to happen? How, now that the genie's out of the bottle, now that everybody's talking about the science of literacy. I mean, there's 3 films on it. There's everybody's talking about it now. So what's going to happen?
If I could do this with a magic wand, and hopefully I won't need the magic wand. Hopefully this is something we can move towards. But colleges will start training teachers the way that on how children learn how to read. We will provide the information from the get-go. The teaching profession itself will gain back some of the respect as we realize how difficult all of this is, not just the teaching reading part, but the administrations will support teachers through this process. Parents will start to understand and start to ask questions. So there aren't pockets of the world that are ignoring this. Pockets of the United States that are saying this isn't happening. I really like my reading nook. I want kids just to learn how on their own. And all kids will have the respect that if they're not learning, they're not punished for that. They're not made to feel stupid, that they're empowered with the tools on how, and they're given, if they need, the intervention and the supports in order to do it, so that they're not walking through the rest of their life not understanding the language of our world, the language of academics that's out there, which is reading.
Okay, that was beautiful. Okay, anything else that you want us to know and to think about?
If I'm going to speak from where I work and what I'm doing now, one thing is that we need to be able to provide children with books that they can actually read. we need to get rid of this leveled reader nonsense. This giving kids books where they have to guess or they don't know the words and they don't know the structures. We're starting to focus on the sound spellings and how this plays into reading. And we need to be able to apply that. I've never had somebody tell me how to do something and then done it perfectly. I have to practice to get there. So there is a chunk of research that's missing on decodable text and decodable books, and how do we apply the knowledge that we have. And I think it's because there's so many factors that go into this research, and hopefully that research will come soon. But until then, we really have to think about the rationale of what's happening in our instruction. If I am teaching kids sound spellings and I am teaching them how to access the language, I need to give them books that actually provide that, so that a kid like my son doesn't sit in a classroom and feel stupid because I'm telling him he can read and he does know the code. And then I'm giving him something that doesn't have that code at his level.
Right on. Well, okay. So are you going to be, are you traveling east? Are you coming to the reading?
I'm going to be in Syracuse.
Oh, you're going to be in Syracuse. Good.
Yeah, I've already invited you. We're having a party.
Oh, good.
Yeah, reading between the wines. And yes, I am going to be back there, but I'm also hopeful to support a viewing of Hopeville out this way.
Well, we'd love to do that.
Mm-hmm. Because we have plenty of teachers out here that would, teachers and parents and board members that would benefit from seeing the film.
That's great. We look forward to doing that. And
Yeah.
And so we can talk more about that. That's fun. So you're going to be in Syracuse. What day is your party?
The 3rd. You guys
3rd.
are on the 4th.
We'll be there then.
Okay.
All right. Well, we are looking forward to it, and we appreciate your time today, and we're looking forward to seeing you. And are you going to see the film again?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm going to have to watch it again. I think I was so caught up in all of it the first time. I want to watch it in a quiet room or without all of the excitement of being with all of these people that understood it. I just want to focus on it one more time.
Cool. Well, we're looking forward to it, and we're going to see you in not very long, in less than a month. Less than a month. 26
Thanks for
days.
having me on. I'm sorry about the other day, and I'm glad I finally got to get in touch with you.
Well, I'm glad you're feeling well, and you look well. Life looks pretty good over there. So thank you for your time today, and we'll be talking. See you soon.
Thanks, Harvey.
Much love and respect. Talk to you soon.